Hello, Terrifier here. Today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about surviving one of the hardest maps in the game, Aberration. This video will go over the dangers and rewards of each individual part of the map and more, so if you're just starting out on the map or confused about something, you're in the right place. There are timestamps throughout this video, so feel free to jump around if there's something specific you're looking for. The first thing to understand is that Aberration does not allow flyers. There are many common land dinos you won't find on Aberration 2, like the Therizinosaurus, Brontosaurus, and Rex. However, Aberration introduces many new creatures to help keep the map balanced. From shoulder-mounted, super cute light pets to absolutely terrifying Reaper Kings and Queens, you'll definitely find everything you need, but with a fresh twist. We'll go over some of those creatures briefly in this video, but I'll dedicate videos to each of them, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Anyway, let's talk about how the map is laid out. There are 4 biomes on Aberration, each of which have their own unique challenges and dangers. You have the green zone, the blue zone, the red zone, and the surface. The green zone is essentially the area that you'll be living in for a decent portion of your time on the map because of its relatively low difficulty compared to the other biomes. While the green zone is considered the easiest zone on the map, it's definitely got its share of deadly challenges. You'll encounter hallucinogenic, poisonous red mushrooms that make you forget how to breathe, countless packs of raptors and ravagers, and tiered landscape that can be difficult to traverse. The main idea behind surviving the green zone is to level your movement speed as soon as possible so that you're able to outrun raptors and ravagers. They're easily some of the fastest and most common threats in the green zone, so naturally it's smart to be faster than them. So many players want to worry about weight or fortitude first, but if you can't outrun dinos, then your other stats don't matter. Spinos and Carcanos often line rivers that you'll be using to keep your water bar full, so devoting your first several levels to movement speed will pay off tremendously. The next challenge you'll face in the green zone is mushrooms. You'll find 2 types of mushrooms in the green zone, red mushrooms and brown mushrooms. Red triangular mushrooms will cause you to suffocate and nearly die if you don't counter the effects with ageravic mushrooms, but the rest of the red mushrooms are safe to harvest. Ageravic mushrooms can be gathered from any mushroom that isn't red and triangular, so keep several on your hotbar for emergency use. I usually eat like 10 or so when I start tripping just to make sure I sufficiently counteract the hallucination. Once you figure out how to survive for more than like 10 minutes, you'll find that the green zone is actually a pretty nice place. Earthquakes provide basic resources, it's teeming with easy food, and there's a ridiculous amount of the resources you need to start out. Plus you can tame some really great creatures in the green zone like Carcanos, Spinos, and Ravagers. It's important to note that the green zone can only take you so far though. Eventually you'll have to venture out for blue and red gems, which will force you into the blue and red zones. Don't expect to find a lot of high value resources like obsidian and metal in the green zone. Okay, moving on to the blue zone. All of the challenges you face in the green zone apply in the blue zone, but the blue zone adds more layers to the difficulty. Not only are there Megalosaurus, Arthropleura, and sometimes even rock drakes, when you enter the blue zone, Nameless will start to spawn. Nameless are these creepy little chupacabra things that appear when you're in the blue zone without a light pet, and if you let them spawn long enough without dealing with them, they'll turn into a Reaper King and, well, roar. I'll have a full tutorial on light pets soon, but for the purposes of this video, you'll need a bulb dog if you want to enter the blue zone. You can tame one passively by feeding it aquatic mushrooms or plant Z seeds, and from there you can pet it to turn its light on. Once its light is on, it will no longer allow Nameless to spawn, making you a little safer in the blue zone. Bulb dogs are super easy tames too, so you should be able to venture into the blue zone relatively early on in your gameplay. There's also freezing spores in this biome that are honestly really difficult to spot if you're not specifically looking for them. They're these little blue mushrooms, but it's not all blue mushrooms, it's only the blue mushrooms with a dark blue ring around the base that you can barely see. If you or your dino walk over these blue mushrooms that have a dark blue ring around the base that you can barely see, you'll instantly suffer from hypothermia, distorted vision, and possibly even narcolepsy. This effect has caused me some serious trouble. Definitely don't take it lightly. Its effects can be counteracted or prevented by consuming aquatic mushrooms, and the high torpor increase can be counteracted with stimberries or auric mushrooms. If you're ever caught in the blue zone without aquatic mushrooms, these clam things will provide them for you, along with some other nice resources. The true keys to safety in the blue zone, however, are a powerful mount like a Carcanos or Spino, a hazard suit, and a light pet. The combination of these three things will protect you from spores, radiation, nameless, and aggressive creatures. It's basically the Triforce, but for aberration. Blue Zone is a great place to find obsidian, metal, blue gems, crystal, and some really good dinos like Ankylosaurus. Next up, we have the Red Zone, which is an area I'm sure many players are afraid of because of the deadly creatures, extremely treacherous landscape, and the deadly radiation. However, I'll be honest with you, the Red Zone is nothing to fear when you have a few good dinos to spare. Of course, you've got the same dangers in the Red Zone that you have in the Green and Blue Zones. This one just, of course, adds layers to the dangers. The first thing you'll notice when you enter the Red Zone is that there's radiation everywhere, and it's simply not survivable unless you have a hazard suit. If you're planning a trip to the Red Zone, it's important that you bring a backup hazard suit and a radiation-resistant creature like the Megalosaurus or the Spino. If you bring a creature that is not resistant to radiation, like a Ravager, your tame will begin to suffer the effects of radiation sickness and eventually die. That is, of course, unless you give that creature Mushroom Brews. Mushroom Brews can be used to help your tame resist radiation, meaning you can take nimble Ravagers or fast roll rats to the Red Zone if you so desire. The Red Zone may be full of dangers, but it's one of the most important locations on the map. It's home to fertilized rock drake eggs, reaper queens, and a tremendous amount of element ore. I'll teach you how to tame all of the creatures specific to aberration in separate videos, so himiny, click subscribe for me. The surface is an interesting place because you don't necessarily need anything there, but you can find some of the best blueprints in the game on the surface. During the day, the surface is literally on fire, and you will die in seconds if you attempt to head out before night. You'll find a pretty hefty amount of Reaper Kings on the surface, and even Alpha Reapers. Reapers can slow you down if you're hit with their poison, so you have to keep lots of distance between you and the Reaper while you're collecting loot, otherwise you'll probably die. It's not recommended to go to the surface unless you have a Rock Drake due to their high mobility and combat capability. It's relatively easy to outmaneuver a Reaper with a Rock Drake if you're paying attention, so make sure you're focused when you're heading to the surface. Okay, so now that you know how the map works and how to survive each of the 4 zones, let's talk about some general tips for success on Aberration. The first tip I have for you is regarding your movement speed. I talked about this tip earlier, but you absolutely need to boost your movement speed as much as possible and as quickly as possible. You'll need something like your first 15 or 20 levels dedicated to movement speed in order to survive well enough to make progress. That pretty much applies to all arcs, but on Aberration it is non-negotiable. Next, you need a Carcanos ASAP. I have a Carcanos tutorial that'll teach you how to tame one, but basically as soon as you're able to craft a cannon or a catapult, go out and get a crab. They're one of the most useful creatures in the game and will serve you well to help you defend and gather resources. The next tip is about taking baby steps. Aberration is a very linear map, meaning that you have to survive one zone to get to the next zone. This means that there's pretty much an order of operations to win on Aberration. Conquer the green zone by leveling movement speed, taming dinos, and getting some light pets. After that, get some more tames and resources from the blue zone. Make a hazard suit with the materials and go to the red zone for rock drake eggs. Once you get a rock drake, go to the surface for blueprints. Beat the caves, and beat Rockwell. Bam! Aberration complete! I'll leave you with one final tip. Don't fall in the element water. Extremely not good. Please land on land. We're not gonna land on land. We're gonna land in here. This is so sketchy. No!